So World Education Services, WES for short, is a not-for-profit social enterprise organization. We've been in Canada for 23 years. We are a 50-year-old organization.
So what is credential evaluation? What is that?
Assess the document against the Canadian education standards, and we provide a report. So if people are applying for express entry, they have to do a WES assessment anyway, either BA to BA in Canada, or what we also do is a course-by-course evaluation. WES is well known and the chosen provider for many licensing bodies in Canada. Credential evaluation is taking your credentials, so your certificates and degrees from your home country, and giving you a Canadian equivalent.
How much time it takes, time period to get their documents evaluated?
Basically, they can apply online to come to Canada or the US.
Yeah.
We also have an agreement with New Zealand. We can actually evaluate the documents within 7 working days. If we don't get the documents on time and we do ask institutions for it, it could take up to 20 days. We can't assume that everybody who's got a degree or a certificate from a particular institution is going to be equal. But the first step always is to verify the document, that it's coming from the institution. You know, if it's not an authentic document, and we will not verify any further if we know that it's fraudulent.
Fraudulent documents. If WES got documents which are fraudulent, forged documents, how WES make sure or verify that these documents are authentic or fraudulent?
You know, any barriers that you're facing, talk to us, let us know, because we can gather that information and talk to government and try and reduce the barriers.
Okay, and the WES evaluation, this certification is valid for how many years?
Once we are successful, it's important not to forget who helped. It's the ripple effect. Throw, you know, a stone actually into the water, and it's a ripple effect. So everybody should help each other, because we're one community and one country.
Yeah. ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਰਲਡ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਸੁਣਿਆ? ਅਗਰ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਨਸਰ ਯੈਸ ਹੈ ਫਿਰ ਤਾਂ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਊਗਾ, ਅਗਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਤੇ WES ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਸੁਣਿਆ ਹੋਊਗਾ। WES ਕਿ ਆਪਣੇ ਡਾਕੂਮੈਂਟਸ WES ਕਰਾ ਲਓ। ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ WES ਕਰਾ ਲਿਆ? ਸੋ ਕ੍ਰੈਡੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲ ਇਵੈਲੂਏਸ਼ਨ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜਦ ਨਵੇਂ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੈਂਟ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹਾਂ, ਨਿਊ ਕਮਰ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ 'ਚ, ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮਿਸ ਕਰ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਕ੍ਰੈਡੈਂਸ਼ੀਅਲਸ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇਵੈਲੂਏਸ਼ਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਾਉਂਦੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਵਾਰ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ WES ਕਰਾ ਲਿਆ ਜਾਏ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਜੌਬ ਈਜ਼ੀਲੀ ਮਿਲ ਜਾਊਗੀ। ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਮੈਨੇਜਿੰਗ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ WES ਦੇ ਵਰਲਡ ਐਜੂਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਤੋਂ ਸ਼ਮੀਰਾ ਮਦਾਨੀ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ MD ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸ਼ਮੀਰਾ, ਵੈਲਕਮ ਟੂ ਦ ਸ਼ੋ।
Thank you for inviting me.
Shamira, first of all, if you can tell your role in WES and about your organization and what kind of services WES provide.
Sure. So Nitin, as you just introduced me, I'm the Managing Director and the Executive Director of World Education Services.
Okay.
And I manage the Canadian operation. So World Education Services, WES for short, is a not-for-profit social enterprise organization. We've been in Canada for 23 years. We are a 50-year-old organization. And basically what we do is, you know, in a very simple way, open doors for immigrants who are choosing to come to Canada or are already here. And we open doors for them to either go to higher education, so go back to school if there are any gaps, to get licensed if they're coming in a professional occupation, or to get employment. And so what WES does is we take the individual's immigrant documents, so the credentials, where they have studied in their home country. We will authenticate, so we'll make sure that the documents are basically verified and coming from the institution that they said they're coming from. And then we will assess the document against the Canadian education standards, and we provide a report that can be used to say, you know, as an example, Nitin studied in institution X in India, and so therefore what he basically is in terms of evaluated in the Canadian standard is BA from that institution to a BA in Canada. Okay. And then employers and others will use that to take you to the next step.
Okay, so what is credential evaluation? What is that?
So credential evaluation, and a really simple way to talk about
Yes.
credential evaluation is taking the education that somebody has done in their home country, could be India, Australia, it doesn't matter, and it's evaluating. So evaluating means assessing step by step, either BA to BA in Canada, or what we also do is a course-by-course evaluation. So if, for example, a licensing body like engineers needs courses, then the evaluation is taking each course you took, and we evaluate it against Canadian standards. So really, credential evaluation is taking your credentials, so your certificates and degrees from your home country, and giving you a Canadian equivalent. So it's just saying, here's where you fit in the Canadian education system.
So getting WES done helps immigrant to get a Canadian job easily and not with that much of struggle, because employers, they know the benefit of getting WES.
So basically what the assessment does is that it gives an opportunity for employers, licensing bodies, or even the registrars in the universities and colleges to understand what the individual has brought. And so they don't have to work through, okay, what is this institution, how is it verified, etc. So it does open doors, Nitin. It literally opens doors, and you don't have to wait and struggle, because it immediately is the first step to basically integrating into the country.
Shamira, how much time it takes, time period to get their documents evaluated? 2 months, 5 months, 6 months, how much time?
It really depends, but generally I can tell you that if we get all the documents, and we are an organization, as I said to you, that have been around for 50 years. We work with 200 countries, almost 15,000 institutions. So as long as the institution that the individual is coming from, we're familiar with and has been verified, we can actually evaluate the documents within 7 working days. But I just want to be clear, that's if all the documents come in, they're verified by us, we're familiar with the institution, the courses. If we don't get the documents on time, and we do ask institutions for it, it could take up to 20 days. But we do it quickly. We're one of the fastest.
Less than 1 month it is evaluated?
Less than 1 month if the documents come in. We're one of the fastest evaluation services in Canada.
Again, I'll ask, importance of WES, importance of getting your documents evaluated by WES. So what is the importance? Because we have seen that many immigrants, newcomers, they come to the country, they start finding the jobs. And many times employers say, you don't have a Canadian experience, even though if it's an engineer, doctor, a professional field too. And they skip that part. There's a small amount of money, get your evaluations done of the documents and get a job, and you will be further away to the queue. You will be a number 1 in the queue that you will be considered. So importance of having a WES.
So, my perspective in terms of why a WES document is important, and especially even as people are thinking about immigrating and after they come. Because as people are thinking about coming to WES, WES is one of the service providers for IRCC. This is the Immigration Ministry. So if people are applying for express entry, they have to do a WES assessment anyway.
It's compulsory, mandatory?
It's compulsory, it's mandatory. So, as I said, we are one of the 5 service providers. And if people come through the express entry, it's mandatory to get an academic assessment, and WES is one of the service providers. So, in fact, it's really important to get an assessment fairly quickly. The other thing is that, most people may not understand the importance of getting the document while they can still pay in their own local currency, because once people arrive, then by the time they settle and they're looking for jobs or whatever else, then, at that point, by the time you get a WES assessment, you've wasted time. So it's really important to try and get that assessment while you still have access to your documents in your home country, so you can have everything gathered, do the WES assessment, you arrive, and you can hit the ground running. Because now you have an assessment that you can start basically putting as part of your resume, because we put a badge on it as soon as you get the assessment, or when you're applying for going back to university.
You mean to say that no need to wait for coming to Canada and then apply before coming to this country, you can apply on WES.
Absolutely, because everything is online. Literally, you just go to the website, you put in an online application, and we can start the process while people are still overseas.
Shamira, getting WES done, getting your credential evaluated, it helps in personal career goals and professional career goals too?
100%. And the reason for that, Nitin, is that we can't assume that everybody who's got a degree or a certificate from a particular institution is going to be equal. So what we need to think about is that the way it's going to help in career goals is that people know immediately where they fit against the Canadian or US education standard. So this way they're not searching and thinking and hoping, and then by the time they get the news that they have to take courses, you know, they've wasted their time and they've lost their relevancy in terms of the experience. So the way it helps the career goals is that, you know, get a WES assessment almost immediately as people are thinking about coming online, and they can start in terms of the resume says, here's my equivalency according to Canadian standards. It opens doors almost immediately. Employers and licensing bodies don't need to search.
So is WES across the globe? If someone want to go to Australia or other countries, so same thing, they can apply online?
So basically they can apply online to come to Canada or the US. We also have an agreement with New Zealand.
I see.
And so we will authenticate, verify documents for those who are going to New Zealand. But what's important in the question you're asking me is that WES is a member of the Alliance of Credential Evaluators. So we are recognized worldwide, globally. We're part of an global network that, you know, if somebody sees a WES assessment and they choose to go to Europe or another country, there will be recognition of the assessment that we provide.
And Shamira, what advice you want to give to the newcomers, those who are newcomers and those who are planning to come to Canada right now? So what will be your advice to them?
So I'll start off with those who are thinking about coming to Canada. Again, it's really important, you know, in terms of making sure that you start the process really soon while you have access to the documents, while you are paying in your local currency, so that you know where you fit, so you can start getting ready, whether you need to take more language training, you know, other certification, etc., so that when you arrive, you can hit the ground running. For immigrants who are already here, sometimes when you come here, you have to get a job straight away. That's what my dad had to do when we came from East Africa. And so what you need to do in terms of, you know, you get the job and then you wait another 6 or 8 months and then you get the WES certification, you're losing time. So again, my advice is as soon as you arrive, then apply for the WES application and then, you know, do whatever job that you're going to get if you need a job immediately, and then start looking for getting back into your former occupation, because that WES assessment is going to help very soon rather than waiting 6 months, 8 months, a year, because by the time you apply, and we might ask for more documents, you're now going a year back to say, where are the documents? So again, the importance of starting the process very soon online, because the other important thing here that I want to say is that the WES assessments are lifetime assessments that we have in our database. And so that once somebody applies and then they come back to us 2 years, 5 years down the road, we have the applicants and the information in our database. We can just provide you the report back again.
Shamira, again, important thing to discuss, like fraudulent documents. We have seen the immigration also that people, they submitted fake IELTS results. So if WES got a documents which are fraudulent, forged documents, how WES make sure or verify that these documents are authentic or fraudulent?
You know, a really good question, especially now when you have, you know, information technology and artificial intelligence. So in fact, WES is well known and the chosen provider for many licensing bodies in Canada, because we take several steps before we evaluate the document. So as I've said to you, the evaluation is, you know, once we have the document, we'll look at what the assessment is against Canadian education standards. But the first step always is to verify the document, that it's coming from the institution. Given that we've been around for 50 years, we know majority of the post-secondary institutions, we can tell whether the dean is correct, basically the date is correct, etc. So we will verify the education institution. The second step is authentication.
Yes.
So we always make sure that the document is authenticated. So, you know, as it comes to us, we have ways and means. What's important for me to tell you is that before COVID, we had majority of our documents coming in sealed envelopes because we only took verified, authenticated documents directly from the institution. As soon as COVID happened and the borders closed, you know, mail wasn't going through. So we worked very hard with our top 3 source countries. India happens to be one. Philippines was next, where we reached out directly to the education institutions and built digital transformation and digital transition. And so now majority of our documents from India, for example, come digitally. Directly from the institution. So, you know, based on that, there's security codes. And so the question you asked me around, you know, making sure that fraudulent documents, literally everything comes electronically. We know, you know, if it's not an authentic document, and we will not verify any further if we know that it's fraudulent. Our basically, as part of our reporting to immigration, as I said, we are one of the service providers. We have to basically, in the report, talk about the number of fraudulent documents, less than 2%, because we catch majority of them.
Did you send this suggestion to the Canadian Immigration Department also, so that they can check the fraudulent IELTS results too?
Well, you know, an interesting question. You know, maybe let's talk to IRCC and say, work with WES, because we're able to determine.
No, that is very important, because cheating the system or having fraudulent documents, because we have seen so many protests and everything, so needs to get the original documents, the authentic documents, not the fraudulent.
Right, it's verification, authentication.
So Immigration Canada needs to work on that too.
Yeah, they can work with us. We're already a service provider, but that's, you know, that's where we basically have built our expertise in terms of ensuring that every document that comes to us is, again, verified, authenticated. Because, Nitin, what's really important in terms of, you know, World Education Services, although we have talked a lot about assessment of credentials, you know, our mission is to make sure that every individual who chooses to come to Canada or the US can basically use their prior experience and skills to contribute to the country. We all come here so that we're able to have better livelihood and lifestyles, and we want to contribute our experience. So we want to make sure that document is going to open doors and help them become part of, you know, what Canada is and who we are.
Shamira, professionals comes to Canada, doctors, engineers, nurses, and Canadian employers, most of the time, they want someone having a local experience, local studies, the Canadian studies and experience. So how WES address these issues for these new immigrants, the professionals, how you address those issues?
So again, another really good question. So basically, WES has 2 components of the work that we do. We've talked a lot about assessing credentials. The other side of the work that we do is called social impact. And so what we do there is we make sure that individuals who are coming are not facing any kind of undue barriers to enter back into the professional occupation. So what we do is we work basically with governments, looking at the kind of policies that they have in place and whether the policies are creating barriers. So, you know, helping them to identify where the barriers could be. We work with licensing bodies like, you know, engineers and nurses. So what WES does really concretely is we work with individuals who are facing the barriers, like nurses as an example, to understand what the issues are. You know, are they being asked to repeat language tests again? You know, are the credentials being recognized for what they bring to Canada? We will do research. We will then put recommendations together. We will then take it to government, whether it's a federal government or provincial government, to say, do you know about these barriers? And here are some recommendations to reduce the barriers. So what we are trying to do is, from a WES perspective, because we are a neutral social enterprise, we make sure that the recommendations we give is going to basically benefit the country. So we're making sure we're able to identify barriers from people who are telling us here are issues, to how do we make systemic changes? How do we change legislation so that not each individual has to go through the same process again? And so that's what WES does. We work a lot with government, with licensing bodies, settlement agencies, to help us identify barriers so that we can talk to government. So again, you know, what I say to the audience is that, you know, any barriers that you're facing, talk to us, let us know, because we can gather that information and talk to government and try and reduce the barriers.
Okay, and the WES evaluation, this certification is valid for how many years?
It's valid for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah, it's in our database for lifetime, but it's valid for 5 years.
Okay. We know that you came to Canada in a younger age. You are a child of immigrants. Can you share your experience, the professional and personal experience story here in Canada?
Sure, and we talked about that a little bit before we started. So Nitin, I came as a young child with my father from East Africa. We were third generation East African. And I came here as a young child. My dad actually came here as an independent immigrant. Now it's called economic class. We had businesses and we had a fairly good lifestyle there. And he spoke fluent English. It's a British system. And what I watched in terms of what happened to my parents is, despite his language skills and despite his business experience, he couldn't find a job, not even basic jobs. And his money was running out. And as a young child, it was really hard. And I know that's what happens to immigrants, to watch what was happening. He ended up getting a job at a golf club, picking up towels, cleaning washrooms. And that was really hard to watch. So I had decided at a young age, when I was in high school and then went to university, that this shouldn't happen to immigrants and that we should really need to change the systems. And so I went to university, I did my degrees, and I made sure that what I would do is that my career would be in making a difference. And so, you know, I ended up working in the provincial government. I was the assistant deputy minister in a number of ministries, and this is my life's passion. And then coming to WES is like a dream come true, because WES is an organization that really reduces barriers.
Such an inspiring story.
Yeah, no, it's as I said, a great organization, and I really would say to newcomers and immigrants that it's really important not to give up, because what we don't want is what happened to my dad. Because that generation, you know, basically as they brought the children, they said, we'll take any job as long as my children succeed. So my sister and I have done that. But what I would rather have is anybody who comes succeeds. You know, they succeed, their children succeed. We don't want to give up on a generation to wait for our young people to succeed. So, you know, that's what I say to people is, you know, advocate for yourself, do whatever is necessary to succeed, and then the other piece of advice is pay it forward. Because I know how many people help me, and I know how many people I help. Once we are successful, it's important not to forget who helped. It's the ripple effect. Throw, you know, a stone actually into the water, and it's a ripple effect. So everybody should help each other, because we're one community and one country.
So Shamira, in the end, would you like to leave some advice for our audience? What will be that last thing?
So the last thing, in terms of if you're an individual, start the process early. Because as I said, you know, by the time you get here, and then it gets harder and harder with the weather and whatever else, start the process early in terms of getting your assessment done and gathering all your documents and reference letters as you're thinking about coming to Canada. The advice for those who are already here, don't wait until 6 or 8 months. Start the process early so that you can continue to build that self-confidence as to who you are and what you're bringing to the country. Because it is hard as a new immigrant to come to a country and send out so many resumes, but once you have an assessment and you've started the process early, at least you have the self-confidence that you're going to be able to contribute to the country. So that's my best advice.
Thank you, Shamika. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you are planning to come to Canada, or if you are already here as an immigrant, don't forget to get your WES done, your get your documents evaluated so that you can easily integrate into the system, to the job market. Easy, it will be easy for you. So ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਮੈਨੇਜਿੰਗ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਰ WES ਤੋਂ, World Education Services. Get your WES done.